What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Backliners podcast. Aggro, who just realized I didn't close my closet door so you can see how messy my closet is in my office, alongside BaRRaCCuDDa, and joined by none other than Mr. Hold on, let me get the actual name of your Twitter account correct here, Hayzer. I don't want to mess this up. Smite roster drama account at Hayzer Smite. Hayzer, thanks so much for coming in, man. I feel like this is the perfect episode to have you on.
It is. It's ideal timing for me. You know, I stepped away from the drama stuff, but they just keep pulling me back in. I've decided to be specific to Smite roster drama now, not just Smite drama, which I think is a really good move for me.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good move for you as long as things keep getting weird. But you have some time at the very least to, you've got at least one more move to go. You know, the jungler for the Scarabs will be picked up eventually, whoever it ends up being.
Coach for Titans too, still an unfilled spot.
Oh, coach for Titans. Have they hit you up for that yet, Paul?
No. Well,
do you take that as an insult?
They were going to ask me, and I know they were going to ask because Cherio spoke to him about it and said, "Don't ask him because he'll hate it and he'll ruin his life if he takes it." So I was like, "Yeah, thanks, Cherry." But also, it'd be nice to be asked.
Right. You want to be able to say no, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to say no.
I'll be gentle.
Okay.
Was that a compliment from Cherry?
Well, it's basically because when I joined his team, when I'd already quit and came to coach them, there was a bad life decision. It's just too many hours, really.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Too many hours.
It's really hard, too.
Yeah.
You have so many jobs. You have so many things you have to do. I don't know.
And it's all stress, right? Like, yeah. I feel like you're never going to get... Of course, the coach is never going to get enough credit whenever things are going well. When they're going poorly, you're going to get a lot of blame. And funny, I should mention that because I'm going to almost certainly put some blame on some coaches later on in this episode. And it's a lot. You have to deal with all of this, like, stress. It is so stressful to be a part of a Smite team. Back in my day, blah, blah, yada, yada. Back in my day on the console side of things, I felt like I was too old for that stuff day one. Like, I was exhausted from roster drama for other teams and how does that affect our team, and like obviously that scene was a lot less stable than the SPL is now.
But the Wild West of Smite.
Dude, it really was the Wild West of Smite, wasn't it? It was it got wild back then. We should do an episode where we just bring in some old console heads and we talk about the old SCL days.
Are those safe for work?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you know.
You know, a few land stories here and there.
Oh yeah, some of the land stories would be out of bounds, but the rest of it, I'm sure.
Not that Smite professionals would ever misbehave.
There are definitely SPL land stories that are out of bounds for sure. Staybridge Suites has seen some things, that's for sure.
The fact that Staybridge let Smite pros stay there as long as they have is actually a testament to how much money talks, right? Like. That's the only reason they would ever allow it, right?
Yeah, I felt bad for Staybridge after a few lanes.
Routinely.
Yeah.
All right, big episode this week. I don't think we're gonna have a lot of time to cover SPL, though I do want to talk about one team in particular and their performance this week, but we'll talk about that in a minute. We've got some roster drama to go over. Now, if you've been living under a internetless rock, you may not have heard that the Scarabs have made some changes, but you may have heard if you tuned in earlier in the week and you just skipped the last week of existence in the Smite universe, that they were benching Solo Troll. That's where all of this started a long time ago, that they were benching SOT. Let's start there, fellas. What was your initial reaction? Hayzer, we can start with you. Whenever you heard that was going to be the Scarabs' plan, how did you take that news?
And not again, I think was my initial thought. I think SOT's a guy with like loads of talent and he's playing really well and he's looking really impressive for that team. For him to possibly have messed it up again and possibly end off a team would be bad, I think, for him, for the league. Like, I think he's a great player. And I was hoping they'd be able to figure it out. I was not surprised. I mean, I heard on the day what happened, so I wasn't really surprised that he got benched for it. I think it was, a fair decision by the team. I don't think it was a ridiculous thing to do to bench him and make him cool off for a bit at the very least. Just unfortunate that they end up having to play so many games with subs if that is their plan going forward, which didn't end up happening. But I was sympathetic to the team, and I remember I read a Reddit. I think it was in Solar Troll's AMA. I don't know if you guys saw this at any point. He did an AMA, and he talked about, and I remember reading this and thinking, good for him. He talked about how much he'd learned about attitude and the way you had to treat the game and the way you had to treat your teammates when he moved down to the SOC/SCC, and how he'd learned his lesson. And I was just really disappointed to see him getting dropped for something outside of the game again. So yeah, that was how I felt about it.
Yeah, BaRRa, how about for you?
Yeah, I was kind of the same way. It kind of instantly reminded me of last year, because obviously last year we had a lot of problems outside of game, in the team dynamic, and it kind of just brought me back to that. I don't know if they were experiencing the similar problems that we were going through, or if it was like different problems, or if it was just him like struggling with certain things. And I like Sot a lot as a person. I think he's a really cool guy. But I think sometimes in a team environment is where he starts to struggle a bit, unfortunately. It's just also sucks because, like, obviously all of us got to see him on Splice and the performance he put on Splice. He literally came to the scene, pogged off, made some like ridiculous highlight plays, and I feel like since then he hasn't gotten back to that really pop off potential in and out of game, and I kind of just wish the best for him moving forward. Also, just really unfortunate with everything happening on that team right now.
Yeah, very unlucky for the Scarabs across the board. I think it makes the most sense, I guess, to stay on the topic of Solar Troll before we move on to the rest of the drama, because he is back on the main roster after everything else that has happened. And I think something that's kind of gotten lost in all of this to me, with Slaney subbing in and layers and picking up a new ADC and all this kind of stuff, like, in my mind, the story of what happened and why he couldn't play in studio, it's widely known. He was supposed to have both vaccines, ended up only having one. Miscommunication is the word I'll use, led to that not being discovered until day of. In my mind, benching him for only that does not make a ton of sense to me. Like, you're cutting off the nose to spite the face, right? If you're benching to intentionally lose sets, you're not intentionally losing sets, but you are significantly harming your capability to win sets as a 2-win team in Phase 2 by benching Solar Troll.
Coming into their most important weekend of games as well. It's worth knowing the matchups they had. Exactly.
With your easiest matchup ahead of you in the Valhalla Valkyries. So if they're benching him just for that, that seems a little, I think that there probably could have been different ways to express their displeasure with that situation than benching him, because it hurts your whole team a lot more. Hold on one second. If it wasn't just for that vaccine situation, yeah, I know. I'm really monologuing here, and I recognize that. If it wasn't just for the vaccine situation, and he's back without having missed any games, then where is the accountability to say that whatever got him benched in the first place is actually going to change from here? In the midst of a very tumultuous time for this roster, by the way. It's easy to be really upset and toxic and have bad environments whenever things are happening. It's like, oh, well, it'll settle, I'll be better when things settle down. But you can't settle down until those things get changed, right? So that's my concern already with this team, is anything going to actually change? And I hope it does. Sot is an incredibly talented player. I think that he's got a really bright future, but this is 2 years in a row now where it's the same story that I'm hearing, and without actual consequence this time, I wonder if anything actually changes.
I mean, I don't know if it's a maturity problem, I guess, or if it's like something that he can or can't work on outside of the game. But it's just, if it's happening this much, you kind of start weighing your options. And I think that's why as much as Layers can say he wasn't trying to replace Sot from an outside perspective, it looks like you are trying to play SOT, and
Sure.
it's like, oh, if we get Wolves in and Wolves starts playing really well, it's an easy fix, like it's an easy swap. And I think that might have been why Layers was so mad in the first place, based off of that SOT situation. And also, I kind of view it as like an opposite of the honeymoon period right now for them, where they're literally like in shambles, rebuilding a team. And like, even if they get all 5 new players together, it's just like, what is happening? Like,
Right.
the amount of crap literally that we've been going through is just, I don't know. I wish them the best forward, but like that team dynamic and team environment has to be absolute dog right now.
Yes, it's got to be. And someone brings up in the chat like that they lost trust in him. You got to make bench him in order to lose trust in him. I don't know. First of all, I get it. I've played in team environments. You know what that is like. But at the same time, I don't think I'm changed. Hey, we can invade this blue buff. I don't know, can we? Like, is that really going to happen in the middle of the game comms? Like, and what's going to change in those 2 weeks of, the 2-week benching that they were going for? That if that was the whole reason, that if it's going to be a benching, what is changing in those 2 weeks to change that? It's really, if you want to look for other options, fine. And they did say that they would explore other options. That's fine, and that makes sense to me. But it doesn't all fit together in my mind. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, what we're hearing doesn't all fit together. Hayzer, you look like you have something to say.
Yeah, well, I think as well, you saw the difference in SOT's reaction between one moment and the next. I mean, when he first reacted to being benched, he was like, this is really unfair. I don't agree with the decision, XYZ. Released a tweet longer about it where he was like, yeah, fair enough, I've been benched. And that looks to me as if SOT thinks he's getting replaced initially.
Right.
And then some kind of thing happens that makes them reconsider that decision. Maybe they looked at who was available and who they were able to get and decided that they had to stick with SOT, or they I don't know what changed, but something I think clearly must have changed. I think the benching was almost a compromise from them. They're saying, hi, Luna. That's Luna, right?
Yeah, that's
They're
Luna.
saying they wanted to replace him. I think Layers especially would have wanted to replace him from everything we've heard.
Yep.
They've realized that there is not a good replacement, and that's where they've landed on this suspension afterwards. That's the kind of middle ground they've ended up in, and I think, yeah, it is a bit murky in the end what that really achieves, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe they saw how SOT came back. To be fair, he got benched on the Renegades for 1 or 2 sets, I think it was, and he came back and he played great, and then you guys kicked him.
Yep. Which was a really funny, from an outside perspective, you see all those things happening, and then I don't exactly remember the layout of the events happening behind the scenes, but I remember like reaching that breaking point of, okay, this is not going to get any better. And yeah, it's I don't know, man.
Speaking to something that Hayzer was just talking about, when you're planning to replace a player, when you're thinking about replacing a player, do you explore your pickup options before you drop them, or do you just drop them and figure that's for future BaRRa to worry about? You know what I mean?
For me, I reach breaking points with players where we've tried to work on X, Y, and Z, and it's not working, or they're not doing a certain thing that the team wants them to do. And you try to work on it for a long time, and then it's just like, okay, this is not going to work anymore. I'm more of the kind of person where I would rather kick them and then we think about it later than because if you try to replace like Smite esports isn't the same as League and other esports where a lot of the coaches in those games have more control. In Smite, the players have a lot of control about the rosters, and if your team already is like, hey BaRRa, we want to try out these ADCs because we feel like you haven't been performing that well or you haven't been playing the game a lot lately, it immediately hits the player's confidence a lot harder in Smite than it does in other games, in my opinion. Whereas in League, it's like, oh, the coaches step in, and it's like, oh, we want to try out these certain players. And I think it's a different dynamic that that the players have to do. And I don't think Smite players handle it nearly as professionally, and they just handle it poorer than other scenes, in my opinion.
Bear, I feel like this is a good time to tell you that I'm trying out some different hosts for the Backliners podcast, and Hayzer is our first tryout. This is also news to Hayzer. I have not told him.
I did say I had a new job.
Everything is lining up weird right now, actually. We talked about coaching earlier, and now he's getting on the podcast, and this is just his tryout.
Hey, we'll see. I think he's doing a pretty good job. That's all I'm thinking. You know, like
if I see you guys duo queuing and ranked for the next week, I know what's happening.
Yeah,
we'll secret Smurfs.
Yeah, we'll be on our Smurfs. We'll be on our Smurfs. Don't you worry about that. Okay, so now we get past the SOT thing. My understanding is that Zap decides that he's had enough. You know, he's too old for this nonsense. And that I actually haven't confirmed the timeline. Oh, I guess is a good time to announce it. I don't know if I'm allowed to announce this, but here I go. What are they going to do? Get me in trouble? We will be putting out I will be doing another series of RosterApocalypse style interviews in studio and online. So you will get a chance to hear from Zap and Layers and Slaney and Inbound in some formal interview settings. If you want to hear an interview with Slaney, by the way, you can go over to Hayzer's YouTube. He already did a great interview with him that I watched earlier. But more, the dramatic interview styles kind of stuff that I really like to do. So that will be coming out. So I will get this timeline clarified. We all will get this timeline clarified eventually. But Zap leaves a team, joins the Leviathans, Yarkor over to the solo lane, Julio out, Zapman in. Let's talk about the Leviathans for a moment. On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the best, how much better do you think the Leviathans got with this move? BaRRa, you can go first.
I think they got way better, honestly. I think
Are you going to give me a number? Or are you going to ignore... this is not great. This is not a great tryout for you.
This scale confuses me.
Yeah, this is a poor scale.
What do you mean? What?
Is 5 like neutral? Or
yeah,
is
5
1
is...
like a little better?
No. 1 is that they got significantly worse. 5 is that they stayed the same. And 10 is that they got way, 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 way better.
Yeah, sure. We'll stick with the scale. This is great.
Okay.
In that case, I think it was like a 7 or an 8 for me.
Okay, thank you for answering my question.
It's a bad scale.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but
you don't seem sorry.
I'm really not. Their shot calling is where they've always struggled in the late game, and I think Zap brings a lot of that. Just kind of control over the team, which is what I think they lacked. I think Yarkor as well, he can pop off an in-your role, so I think you give him like a week or two and he'll be like a top tier solo. I think he's already up there, honestly. And I think Zap and Ronnie have a really good lane dynamic, as well as I think Zap can kind of play the PK style of Hunter that he played before and allow Shinto to pop off.
Yep.
And as well, I think Phantom fits Zap style, potentially playing through duo depending on the meta. And yeah.
All right, Hayzer, you're if you want to make your own scale, I suppose, since everyone hates my scale.
I'm gonna say it's like a 6 or a 7 for me. I'll say 6.5. I don't think they got that much better. In fact, I think in the immediacy they probably got slightly worse.
Sure.
I think for now they're probably going to be a little bit off, and they're going to be learning to play together. I think one way in which it's good is that the meta is shifting in solo, and Julio's god pool doesn't suit the solo gods that are coming into the meta for sure. He's always been a warrior player. He does not play guardians. He is not good at them. He should not play them. He should play warriors and win lanes all alone and win games all alone. He's very, very good at that. But yeah, I think it's a good move for them roster wise. I think having a little bit more LAN experience is going to be good for them as well. I think they have struggled when it comes to pressure situations at events. They always look good online. and then crumble a little bit when they have to play against BaRRA on LAN, and then yeah, I don't know. I think they're a little better, and I think Hardcore for now though does look like a worse solo laner than he did before. Not really surprising, but I feel like it's almost a surprise that he hasn't stepped back in and been incredible straight away in solo because of how well he adjusted to ADC and just how impressive he's looked in that role and how quickly he adjusted. I feel like he is. You can see the rust a little bit.
Bit. I agree. His Kakullen looked very good. His Arthur looked very underwhelming, I would say. But Yark, for my money, was one of the best solos last year. Like maybe the best. I thought that he was hard carrying that team routinely. He was obviously great in Hunter. I just was never super high on Julio in general. Like I never felt like he was going to lose the Leviathans games. But I don't think he was never in a position where he was going to take over. I was like, all right, this is Julio's draft, or like this is Julio's team to really destroy this game. Whereas Yarkor, I think, will bring that. You can make the argument that maybe Zap won't bring that type of domination to the ADC role. It's not really what he does these days. But I think you hit the nail on the head for me, BaRRA, and that's that Zap will just play ADC like he played ADC for Paul, and Shinto is going to look really good in the coming
years. That is a really good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Two most similar mid laners in the league, maybe Shinto and Paul, maybe Big Man in there as well. The farm monsters. They want all the farm.
Yeah.
And Zap's going to give him the space to play.
Zap's going to give him a lot of space. Zap is down to die in order to win the team fight. Bait all the relics, all whatever. I think the Leviathans get pretty significantly better. I think I'd go 8 on my well crafted scale.
Real quick, I think this is a really good revitalization for Steve, because I feel like the Scarabs kind of just like losing that much is just a big moral defeater, over and over and over again, and getting on a front line that is as good as Leviathans, he's gonna be playing a completely different Smite game.
Yep, agreed. I think the Leviathans are in a really good spot to make a run at the end of Phase 2 and Phase 2 playoffs and stuff like that. All right, let's go back to the Scarabs then, because now they've moved Sot back into the active roster. They've lost their ADC, and they have the fateful day of scrims, the last day with layers in there. Have you guys ever heard something so crazy as what has transpired with this team? It blew my mind that this is what happened. To fill everyone in, if you haven't heard, the story goes, and this is according to the interview that Slaney gave to Hayzer, again, on Hayzer's YouTube channel. They have some scrims trying out different ADCs. It doesn't go super well. And Layers gets up and starts voicing his frustration in his room to his parents without his mic muted. I will not go over whether or not the mic was supposed to be muted. That does not matter to me. It was apparently...
I heard the scrims were good, by the way. I did hear the scrims were actually pretty good.
Okay, the scrims went pretty well. All right, fair enough. I don't know what to say about this, to be honest with you. It is... I can't imagine. That must have been truly surreal to hear it. I wish if I had a time machine with not 3 charges, but 5 charges, one of them might be to be in that Discord at that time. What do you have to see? I want to see Vesuvius erupt. I want to see maybe some great sports plays happening. Maybe I go watch a Muhammad Ali fight or something like that. And then I go to watch Layers blow up in his mic in the Discord after the scrim session. Unreal. I just wish I could know, man. I wish I could know exactly what it sounded like.
Slaney tried to shadow play it, but he didn't have a game open, so he couldn't. That's what he told me.
So unlucky. So unlucky. BaRRA, have you? What's the most embarrassing open mic moment you've had? Number one.
I don't think I've ever had a bad open mic moment before.
Really?
Nothing that would ever compare
I'm not saying like, maybe you just say something to Destiny that you wish you're like, oh man, I wish I would have muted my mic. Like that's kind of embarrassing.
Oh no. Yeah, I'm really, really good mic muter.
Okay.
Every time Destiny comes upstairs, I'm slamming the mute button so we can talk. And I honestly don't have any embarrassing mic stories, unfortunately.
That
I wish I did. That I know of and that I can remember in my hungover state right now.
Yeah, someone's like somewhere. Jeff Hindla is like, I don't know, bro. That one time, like I heard something. I don't know if that's true. Okay, so you have it there. BaRRaCCuDDa, best Artemis Trapper and best mic muter. So he's got those two things going for him.
Best Ullr 3 as well.
Best Ullr 3 combo. Actually, you mute your mic and then you shit talk your
Well done. All right, you've got the job, Paul. It's yours. Welcome to the team.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome to the Backliners. Any embarrassing open mic moments for you, Paul?
Nah, not really. Nah, I can't think of any. Everything's always been fine on the teams I was on. I was shit talking them anyway. That's kind of the job of the coach.
Right.
I'm just slamming them after every game. Step it up, Prime, you old man.
I can't.
Your fingers can't hit the bean ski. Jesus.
I feel like I can't remember exactly what it was. It wasn't open mic. I feel like, so this actually relates to what we were talking about earlier. Back in the day, SCL, Wild West in terms of rosters. Like we would play with different players all the time. And I swear, at least once, someone sent a DM to the wrong group about how garbage the ADC we used to play with was, and it was that group, and he was in that group. Oh. I want to say that happened. I don't know if it was me. It may have been. That sounds like something Leon would do, to be fair to him. But I can't remember exactly, but I think I remember being mortified on that general level, and I think that's the closest I've come.
I asked I asked the team that lost for an interview once. I was like pretty drunk while streaming, and I always interview the winning teams, and I asked the team that lost. I think it was. I'm trying to think who it was. I think it might have been Leviathan's, but last year, so not Leviathan, Sanguine.
Yeah.
It might have been them, which is awkward because I didn't know them very well either. And they were like, yeah, I guess I could do an interview, but we didn't win. And I was like, oh, yes, you did lose. Oh.
That's something my wife, who does not care about esports or sports at all, she always doesn't understand why in sports they interview the losing team. And they don't do it in esports. And I think she's right. And it's not that sports should stop. I think we should interview losing teams.
We did try to do that, right? Like last year, year before?
We might have.
It was season 5. I remember like it being kind of awkward because I lost every set that year. And I think we did do losing interviews.
I think you're right. I think that was my fault. I thought that would be good.
And they were just like awkward interviews of like, why did that happen? Or like, what will you do moving forward to prevent your next loss? And then you lose the next week. It's like, what will you do to prevent the next? And then you just, keep answering the questions the same way. I think it's really good if it's like a juicy game or like a one-off thing, but I don't think you should interview every losing team.
I think you have to interview the right people from a losing game perspective as well. I think a lot of the Smite players are awkward enough when it comes to interviews in the first place. No offense to them. They're just not good. That's not what they're paid to do. They're not paid to sit and talk and answer questions. And I think interviewing certain players after a loss would just be an absolute
agreed.
Fiesta.
I do think, I do wish that it's so emotional, and I know this is probably not going to be a popular opinion, but I come from, I'm like a hybrid of media and player, but more media, I would say. And I always want to do interviews with losing teams at Worlds, because that's when it would be so heartbreaking, but that's what makes it worth it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that seeing, those are the most impactful interviews, is the ones like after, getting knocked out of the playoffs and that kind of stuff. And I think that it connects the fans to their favorite players, that instead of being angry that they lost or choked or that kind of stuff, like you get to share in their sadness with them. You know what I mean?
Cherry says no.
Yeah, of course Cherry says no. I respect that. I would never force anyone to do it. And I understand why we don't.
On the way out the cob anyway. You get it on the way out the cob. The guys, they stop you, they find you, they're like, why did you pick Osiris 3 times and everyone lose every time? Why did you keep picking the tree, man?
Yep.
You just get it nonstop.
Love those questions. They're my favorite.
Don't ask those questions, chat.
Yeah, if you ever go to Worlds, just be like, oh, I'm so happy to see you. Don't be like a reporter and try to get to the details on every single thing that went wrong in our Smite game. Reporter questions from chat and from fans, I hate them.
Yes.
Not a fan.
No, they're definitely bad. There's a time and a place, and it's when I've shoved a camera and a microphone in your face and you can't get away from me. That is the time and the place. That's what I will say.
Voice for the interviews, unless I'm shoving a microphone in your face.
That's right. Absolutely. Where were we before? Oh yeah, open mic. Oh my god, I can't believe we got off topic on such a juicy subject. So Layers had some choice words, instantly kicked from the team upon returning. That must have been an awkward moment for all involved. But can you BaRRa, can you imagine if that happened to your team? Do you think that if you thought everything was going well, obviously things were not all going well for the Skips. This is a hypothetical situation. Let's say things are all going well. You are the only one left in the Discord call. Everyone leaves but you and like Jake. And then you just hear Jake like talking to someone else and being like, God, dude, my team is horrible. Like, they are just, and he's just cursing all of you out. Would you just be like, I guess we have to drop him?
I don't. It depends on if we were doing really badly and we were already in like a bad mental state. I would, but if we were doing good, I would talk to Jake or like whoever it was in a one-on-one and be like, why do you think that way?
like what is possessing you?
Like, you have to really reach like a mental point to just start thrashing at your team like that.
Yep.
And I think, I mean, for me, it comes back to Zap. Like, in my opinion, just get off the burning ship. And like, if the team dynamic is already that bad, then he 100% did the right thing. And I heard the Zap also like asked the people on the team whether he should leave or not, which is also a good man move by Steve.
Yep.
A lot of respect to him for that. And yeah, I don't know what I would do in that. If we were doing poorly, I would literally just lose my mind. I'm like, why?
Yeah, maybe I guess the better question would have been like Season 5 SSG. You hear like Aqua going off on you guys, and you're like, what is going on here, dude?
Honestly, I would be like, yeah, he's right. Yeah, we are really bad. We are all playing bad. We have all made game-losing mistakes that year. And yeah, that year, with those people, honestly, I wouldn't even be upset about it. But yeah, right. They're right. That's just, it is what it is, man.
I can only imagine. Andenster is just like my favorite master of the English language. Like, the way Andenster talks just makes me smile on a regular basis. And hearing him like be mad about that would be funny in my mind, wouldn't he? I don't even know if I'd be mad. Hayzer, I feel like what is your perspective from a coach's perspective? You have to get rid of him after that, right? Like, your hands are kind of tied.
Yeah, I think so. I think it very much depends on what the context of the words that you hear, which we can't go into too much here, but like, I think when it comes down to personal insults and things like that, it's probably too far gone for the relationship to ever be salvaged. And at that point, you can't, the team cannot continue as it is. Yeah. I think the guy has to go. Yeah.
Gotta get him out of there. And they do. They immediately remove Layers from the team. The surrounding circumstances after the fact, Layers puts out a short tweet like, hey, gotta move forward, whatever. I'm thinking, all right, thumbs up, we're fine with this. This is good. And then comes the twit longer, which was ill-advised is the phrase that I will use. I get it. Layers has always been known as a pretty emotional dude. I think that coming to the realization that of what, of everything that's happened and realizing now that he is off the team and all that kind of stuff, like I think he probably let the emotions get the best of him. He definitely, and I'm sure he's also seen how it works where one side gets to tell their story, the other doesn't, you feel like it's a little unfair. And I'm not criticizing you for that at all, Hayzer, for the record. And again, for the record, Layers will get a chance to tell his story because I'm interviewing him like tomorrow night. So he will get a chance to put it out there publicly, and it will be right alongside the other side. But I understand how Layers came to the conclusion that that was the right move for him. I wish someone in his corner would have been able to read it beforehand or something like that. You know, like give a little advice. You know.
Okay, so I don't know that much about Layers, but just reading that tweet longer, I was so confused. It just seems kind of crazy to tweet that kind of stuff, in my opinion, and to shine a light on a lot of those aspects. And I feel like he did it in a very unprofessional way.
Yep.
And I think also by doing that, complete honest opinion here, I don't know if he's going to get on a team again with that kind of personality. I don't know of anyone that would want to team with someone that would do that to them down the road. I think he just went off the deep end with that tweet longer.
Yeah.
I think
Go ahead.
I think a lot of it's It didn't read very well. Would be number one as well. Yeah, it wasn't winning any prizes for how it flowed. But yeah, I just think it was an attack rather than a defense of himself. That's what it was. It was an attack on the people who he feel had wronged him. People are saying he wanted a chance to defend himself. He got kicked for the stuff he said when he went hot mic. None of the stuff he said was anything to do with that. You can understand why he might be annoyed about certain things, and I feel for him in certain ways. You know, I'm 27 years old. I wouldn't want to move in with a load of messy gamers personally.
Yeah.
And I can understand why that would annoy someone. You know, I can understand these things, but I just think the way in which it was aired and the way in which it was framed was totally inappropriate. And I think a lot of the stuff was almost deliberately misleading the reader as well. Stuff about the rent and things like that. People are saying, why are you paying rent for an apartment which you don't live in? Yeah, because you've agreed to pay rent. Things like that. Yep. I'm not on board with at all.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I think all of that stuff is handled way better in a private conversation than aired out for the public to have their like weighted like looks on it, in my opinion. And it just depends on who talks about it and the frame that they put it in. And his frame, like you said, was just straight up an attack. I really do not like that, and I think it's completely unprofessional, and I would hate if any of my teammates ever did that to anyone on my team.
For both of your perspectives, is there anything, what, if anything, let's say in a year and a half, whatever, your team needs a jungler, Layers is still available. What would need to happen for you to consider putting Layers on that roster? Hayzer?
He would have to be the best option in terms of the way he plays, in which I wouldn't be too surprised if he is. I think he's a really good player.
Agreed.
I was hoping he would be in the league this year, and I think it's a shame that his shot is gone in my eyes. I think for him to be the best option and me to pick him up, I think I'd have to somebody would have had to have had some miraculous good experiences with him and have personal insight on the team into the fact that he is now better and okay to team with, and he has grown. Which I think is just unlikely. So I think it would be very unlikely for it to happen for me. I think I'd probably go towards a player who was maybe slightly worse with the potential of, being a better teammate.
Yep.
BaRRa?
I've always viewed it that way. Like, I don't view that you need the best mechanical players to win worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And there would literally be no other option for me than for me to get Layers, in my opinion. That's just how I view it. I hate unprofessionalism, and I hate viewing or airing those kinds of things. I just hate every part of it. Just very disrespectful, very immature.
BaRRa, there's only, you guys need a jungler. It is Layers or it's me. Who are you picking up? He takes a long sip from his drink. He goes back for more. He laughs. He unmutes his mic. The best mic muter in the universe. He delivers his answer.
The BaRRaCCuDDa combo.
I would get you.
Let's go! I'm in the SPL, baby.
Not even trolling. I hate that kind of stuff.
And you think I'm really sick of the game. Go ahead and say that part.
I'm so glad you're here, Hayzer.
What?
Like, I'm so glad you joined the podcast tonight.
Okay,
I'm so glad I'm going to be your jungler, Barra.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Neith isn't even good in the jungle. Okay, that's
Dude,
all.
That's like her third best role after support and solo.
After support and solo, I love it. All right, last bit of roster drama. The pickup here for the Scarabs. They go with Stu. Slaney mentioned in your video that they were trying out Crimson as well. They go Stu's direction. I think that does make a lot of sense to me. I'm excited to Stu is not being given a fair shake right now with all the things that are going on around that team. I think the only thing you could judge him on right now is mechanics. His mechanics.
And he got soloed by Emil.
Did not seem great. That's where I was going with that. There was a little on the table, but I do think that I've watched Stu for a pretty long time now across SEC and that kind of stuff. And I think that he does. I don't know if it's true. To me, from the outside looking in, it seems like he might get a little nervous in bigger games. And I think that he probably feels a little nervous having his first full roster slot and that kind of stuff. I'm personally a Stu believer, and I think that he's going to adjust and be an acceptable SPL ADC. Is my feeling.
Yeah, I completely agree. Whether he's temporary or not, I have mad respect for Stu. I think he should deserve an SPL spot way earlier. I hope he does get the permanent spot. I think he'll be a very fun player to scrim against and do play against in the SPL. I think he looks for a lot of like individual plays in lane, kind of the hardcore style of I want to make an individual play versus like making my team play or team plays. And I think he's just a fun player to watch. And I think he's a fun player to play against.
Hayzer?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a great player. I think he's done really well in the SEC. He's been one who I didn't really know much about until last year. I've seen him kind of come through and look great over the last couple of years. Last year or so, I suppose. And I think he seems like somebody who likes the game and likes to play the game, which I think is a big thing for a lot of teams, is bringing him in. He's going to play, and he's going to make sure that he grinds his way until he's playing at the level he needs to play at, which I think he's probably not quite there yet, but I have full faith in him getting there. Agreed.
Also, speaking to your last point, Barra, Stu's just a cool dude who I'm like down to spend some time with, and that's really important. It turns out. Who would guess? I don't know.
What did you say?
Is he the other option for the podcast?
Well, maybe I should hit up Stu. Yeah, maybe I should hit up Stu. He should come on the podcast. That's a good idea. Hey, before we get into SPL this week, I've got a breaking news announcement here. This is attention listeners all across the galaxy, all the way from Australia to Houston. Do we have a pube problem? Was waiting for a Hayzer reaction.
You need to answer that?
No.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, that was to you guys, but we got there. Of course, Hayzer ends up getting it before Barra. No surprise there. If so,
I thought it was just a long pause again, bro.
Same.
If so, our friends at Manscaped have cleared you for takeoff with their 4th generation and brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Kick your pubes to the next planet with the Performance Package 4.0. The orbits in your pants will feel like you're in zero gravity when you use the best tools for the job from the leaders in male grooming. I think I'm starting to blush a little bit. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get your rocket ready for takeoff by going to manscaped.com/back for 20% off and free shipping. Hayzer, I haven't been able to give you the quick breakdown quite yet, but
But you want me to run with this? I can do this.
Yeah, go for it. By all means.
Listen, fellas, it's been a long lockdown. Things are starting to open up. It's time for you to open up your pants. But you know what you need to do before that?
What do
you need to hit Manscaped. Use code
Manscaped.com/back. Manscaped.com/back.
Manscaped.com/back. Yep. Not for your back.
Nope.
For
Well, you could.
somewhere else, get it done, get yourself sorted, get yourself out there, only if you're double jabbed, and share some saliva with somebody else and have a great time.
Well said, my friend. Get 20% off plus free shipping by going to manscaped.com/back. That's 20% off plus free shipping by going to manscaped.com/back for a clean trinity and beyond. Your space balls will thank you. BaRRa, isn't it weird that you have never done an ad read for us and Hayzer comes in his tryout and does one right away?
It's because I'm literally the worst ad reader here by far, so I should never do an ad read.
I kind of want you to do one now.
No, you really don't. It's literally it's
There's
like
innuendos in there. I'd love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that ad read was I like that ad read a lot. It was just, you know, every other line was like with the rocket getting ready for takeoff. I literally like cover my mouth because I felt so like.
Oh well, Zap's in chat, aka the 2-time, and he says, "I want John to tell me to shave my balls." BaRRa, this is a sale on the line. Tell Zapman to if he wants his balls to be in the best shape possible to go to manscaped.com/back. Go ahead, BaRRa.
Wait.
Okay.
Will Steve buy it if I do?
Maybe Steve will. Maybe other people will. Maybe Hayzer will.
I will. If he does, I will.
Maybe Hayzer will. Assume that they all will, BaRRa. We've got listeners all across the world.
I want you to shave your balls, Steve.
Okay.
And I bet they're very attractive, and they'll look even better if they're shaven.
Uh-huh. And what should he? And okay, but BaRRa, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. Okay, you got to give him the
point?
You got to give him the link. No, BaRRa, that's the point of the ad is to give him the link.
You heard the link, bro.
You're doing the ad read, BaRRa. You have to say the link. Say the link. Say the link. Say the link. Say the link.
You told me.
Say the
to
link.
Tell Steve to shave his balls,
BaRRa.
and I did that.
He's in chat. He said, "Oh no, where do I go to buy this?"
Oh my god, manscaped.com/back.
And what does he get for doing that?
He gets great balls!
And for using the code, he gets...
free shipping and 20% off!
There it is! Now we got it. Now we can move on with the show. Goodness.
God, my whole body is so flustered right now.
I'm sorry you had to see that.
I'm sweating between my fingers.
That's all right.
You know, if you're sweating down below, BaRRa, you could get Manscaped's ball deodorant in order to make sure you're always clean and pristine. Manscaped.com.
I'm always clean and pristine.
Well, apparently not. You were just saying you weren't. Anyways, real quickly about SPL this week. Really, really interesting week. The Dragons kind of get back on the right foot by beating the Kings. You guys stay undefeated. BaRRa now 6-0. And looking red hot. You guys have been winning. But I want to talk about a team that is now tied with the Jade Dragons. I want to talk about the Oni Warriors. 3-3, a 2-0 victory over the Titans. And can I say, I know they played well at Phase 1 playoffs and all that kind of stuff, but let's be real. I think other teams played really poorly in that group. I think today was the best Smite the Oni Warriors have played in Season 8. Hayzer, do you agree?
Easily. They were doing stuff. Their core was in the server. And votes looking better than ever. Nika was the least impressive member of the team today.
I know.
You ever said that this season? I don't think so. It was crazy. Votes hitting things. Neil's doing stuff with abilities. Dardez is picking gods he can actually play.
He picked Hera, and I like.
Yeah.
Thank God I'd use Manscaped.
It wasn't even a good Hera game.
It wasn't.
But he did it.
He did it anyways, and he still owned. Like, where has that been?
Okay, he got soloed, and then it just didn't matter. And I was so confused. Like, normally, I feel like if a midlaner gets soloed, the game's over. Like, you really don't get another red buff the rest of the game. And that didn't happen, and I was so confused watching that game.
Yeah, that's because the Titans core are terrible. They're the worst. I'm sorry. This was the tale of the two worst cores in the league against each other, apart from the Valks. They don't count. And... one of the cores turned up, and the other one still didn't.
Okay, for Chad, who's going to lose their minds, Hayzer, I'm assuming, because I agree that they have been the least active cores in the league, that they have been the most passive, least willing to actually advance the game.
They just don't do anything.
They don't do anything, and it's my least favorite brand of Smite. BaRRa, you can attest to this. I used to literally yell at BaRRa, especially last year, because Renegades would go through these phases of you guys would be really active, and then sometimes the game would just happen around you. You would just experience Smite. You wouldn't play it. And it drives me insane whenever teams do that. And that's exactly what the Titans did, particularly in game 1, where no one is doing anything.
Yep.
And anytime a team picks Ganesh, I'm like, great, they don't want to play. Like they because you can't be active with Ganesh. You just can't. I think Ganesh is actually a really good god, but it's only in really like certain scenarios when they're going to be doing a lot of stuff to you.
You just need other fight starters in your team comp if you have a Ganesh, in my opinion, or you need to go like completely counter engage, which is kind of hard to do in this meta of Smite, in my opinion.
Agreed. Scream does bring up a good point. When Gino picks Ganesh, I get chills. I have to put a coat on, and I'm ready to watch a man carry a game by himself.
Tricks as well. I don't know if you've seen much of the EUSCC, but Tricks, god damn that guy on Ganesh.
Yep. No, he is a beast on that. You on Ganesh? No.
Anyone?
Can I talk about one of my favorite Baskin stories of all time? Hopefully he doesn't get mad at me for telling this. We were talking about Ganesh in general, and Baskin was like pretty silent most of the time, except for making fun of Gino, which is pretty typical for those two. Until Baskin goes, "You know who was the best Ganesh alter I've ever seen, bar none? Jeff Hinla." He said, "Jeff, look, we all love Jeff on this show. None of us think Jeff was lighting the world on fire mechanically. Not one of us do. Except for his Ganesh ults. And
Sylph pulls.
And Sylph pulls, sure. I guess I'll sign on to that. His Ganesh ults were actually unreal. Yep. So if Jeff were to lock in Ganesh, I'm in. But no one else. I don't know. I'm not about that life. I don't know, man. Go ahead, Hayzer.
I think it's because Aurora had a good game on Ganesh in his last set with the Titans, by the way. And, they've got so little confidence in everything they're playing. So he's just like, I'll play it again.
Yeah. Yep. Might as well. I don't know. I mean, I feel like this week, the way they picked didn't make a ton of sense to me. The way that Scary has been hot and cold, more on the cold side than hot, but has had his good games. It concerns me that his two picks this week were Rav and Fenrir, the two gods that he's had the most good performances on, and he still wasn't aggressive. Not even didn't like play well, but was not an initiator, was not playing aggressively. If I'm a Titans fan, I think that concerns me, that they got him his two picks, and it still didn't really do much.
I don't know if it's like a meta thing or if it's like a confidence on that day thing, but I completely agree with Scary. I don't know when you start kind of hitting that point of like with Scary, like do you just keep having him jungle? Like is this something we committed to the whole year? But I do agree with you guys about their core being weak, and I think unfortunately for me, I think that does come back to Scary a lot, unfortunately, because I think he was disgustingly good at solo, but I think his jungle performance has just been so hot and cold this whole year of like, does he show up today or is he literally just a non-factor? And today he was like doing the weird plays of like overly forcing things, and I think that just shows like someone who is just uncomfortable.
I always talk about winning a world championship is binary in sports and in esports. You either have the potential to do it or you don't. It doesn't matter if your favorites really, to me, because we've seen over and over again that teams can show up on a weekend and just be better and all that kind of stuff. In my mind, if your team cannot honestly look at themselves and say, if we play our best on a weekend, we can win worlds, then you need to make changes. That is unquestionable to me. Do you guys think, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but that's kind of mood I am in today. Do you guys think on their best weekend the Titans can win the world championship with this current roster as it's structured? Hayzer?
No.
BaRRa?
No. I think they can make a lot of noise, but I don't think they can win.
I agree. So and by that logic, something should change.
Yeah. I just think they're in a weird spot with Scary, with him and Paul being like kind of like a package. And the other three on that team kind of being a different package, in my opinion. And...
Speaking of packages, manscaped.com/back right back in there, baby. 20% off and free shipping. Barry, you were saying?
Talking about packages. I think we've also seen a different Benji and Aurora this year than we're used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, in my opinion, I look at like Aurora in like the season 3 of just being literally the most annoying support to play against.
Yep.
And then today he plays Ganesh. And I think he's very, very, very good on that annoying style. And when he plays the more defensive styles, I just don't think he does nearly as much. And I think a lot of that puts the weight on Scary then to kind of make up for that aggressiveness in teamfights and on the map. And I just think he's too hot or cold for it, unfortunately.
Yep. I don't know. My opinion is not locked in stone. Maybe Scary makes big strides, and maybe the whole team around him makes big strides. I don't think it's solely on his shoulders at all. But that team is too good to be where they are, in my opinion.
Also, I hard disagree on Benji. I think Benji started the season pretty poorly. I think maybe you just try to put 2 people in there so that you're not singling out Aurora. But Benji, I think, has been really good for like the last, I don't know, 8 weeks of games or however many times we've seen him, like since like week 2.
That was
he
the
really
thing.
Bad for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was the thing, and that's kind of typical for Benji, if I remember correctly, because, and he'll tell you this, he won't play up until it's time for SPL. So that does not surprise me. Whenever the Titans were starting to play well, they started camping solo and setting up Benji, and he was carrying.
Yep.
Where did that go? Why did that stop? Maybe after midseason you can't camp solo anymore, but I find that kind of hard to believe.
Shroud is kind of OP.
Yeah, that's true.
Shroud and rushing breastplate or just a FizzD item. If there's a Sobek and they go Vamp Shroud breastplate, like your jungler's never gonna want to go over there.
No, they're not gonna get kills, but you should be able to set him up to carry the game for you, I would think. But maybe not. Maybe teams have tried that, and that is not an option. By the way, Zap did put in chat that he got the performance package 4.0 by going to manscaped.com/pack. Of course he did. He's a man of his word. And if it's good enough for the 2-time, it's good enough for you, listener. So get on it, huh? That's all I have to say about it. That's probably not all I have to say about it. All right, it's time for a random question of the week. This time, BaRRa, you've been doing better, by the way. I get random messages during the week from BaRRa these days saying, here's a random podcast question idea, and then he throws one at me, and they're good. So I wanted to, if I'm gonna roast you when you're not doing it, I got to give you some credit when you are, BaRRa. So you're doing great. Man. Keep it up.
You just do so much lately,
Well.
I gotta help you out here and there.
All right, you're staying on the show. You can stay. It was close for a little bit, but that's it. Hayzer, we'll start with you. As per usual, a random question of the week is going to be about food. Can you give me your favorite and least favorite type of pasta noodle?
My least favorite is spaghetti. Fuck spaghetti. I'm a spaghetti hater.
Really?
It's a mess. It doesn't carry sauces particularly well. It doesn't carry bits of stuff particularly well. It just kind of slops about all over the place and slimes all over you. And you're like, dude, and it doesn't even fit in a pot. Like, you need like a special pot to make spaghetti, dude. Like, I'm not in for that. My favorite kind of pasta. I quite like a conchigli, which is a pasta shell. I can pasta shell quite a lot. It's a good receptacle for small bits of food. It's a good sauce carrier, and it fits in a pot.
How you were so prepared for this? That was really. We did not tell him this beforehand. That was impressive.
I think about food a lot.
You would fit in well on this podcast, Hayzer. Maybe in the time between you and your new job starting, maybe we can make this a little 3-man action. BaRRa, your turn. Go for your favorite.
It's not going to be nearly as great as Hayzer's take.
Well, we knew that. You always have horrible. You never think about anything when it comes to food.
That's fair. Penne is my favorite, I would say.
Okay,
I guess
penne is good.
Backwards of Hayzer.
Yep.
I just feel like you can literally use penne for anything.
Yep. And
it will always be delicious, and it carries a sauce well. And if I'm going by Hayzer's, critique, it fits in a pot, and it's very lovely. And
it does.
My least favorite, I think, sorry, Destiny, it's angel hair.
Yes.
I hate it just doesn't do anything. It doesn't taste like anything. It's
No,
just
it's just
there.
bad.
It's like a
It's
like,
worse spaghetti. It's worse
yeah,
spaghetti.
that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's worse spaghetti. Like at least spaghetti, I have a mouth feel. Angel hair,
Yeah.
it's like I'm not even eating anything. It's like I'm eating air, and it has the same faults as spaghetti, which Hayzer went through earlier. Literally,
did?
like it doesn't fit in your pot, and just slops everywhere when you try to eat it. And
I thought you
it's
were gonna
just-
say it doesn't fit in your pocket, and I was like,
Oh.
that is a
Have you not seen the thing? Spaghetti in my pocket, spaghetti everywhere. Oh, I guess angel hair, slightly different. But yeah.
It's just thinner spaghetti, and it is in every way worse. And I'm with you, BaRRa. You and I may be agreeing for the first time on a food opinion.
Wow.
Angel hair is the worst pasta, by far. It is worthless. Except for maybe, as J-Mac, I asked this question in the green room, J-Mac really contributing in his debut few weeks here in the SPL casting room. He brought up the little wheels, rotelle. Who wants those?
Children, I think. That's what they're for, right?
Right. They've got to be. But, like, shells are more fun. You know what I mean? Like, I think shells are more fun than those. The wheels, garbage.
I didn't know that was a pasta shape. I just
Get them
looked
out of
it
here.
up.
I hate them. For my favorite...
Oh, yeah.
No, go ahead, Hayzer.
Sorry.
No.
No. Give us your favorite. Give us your favorite right now.
Hayzer's
Right
trying to
now,
get the job
I
over
really like linguine. It's thicker pasta. It's like flat. It has very good texture in my mouth. I love
Not in your pocket.
not in my pocket. It feels very similar to spaghetti in my pocket, and we don't like that about it. I love carbonara, and a lot of times that's made with linguine. I'm a linguine fan. It is a little bit annoying to eat, but I think that the texture makes up for it. But all like rigatoni, penne, ziti, all of those are good. You're never going to hear me complaining about those types of pastas either. What were you going to say, Hayzer?
Linguine is like redeemable spaghetti. It really is. It's pretty good. Did you? If I encourage you to go and look this up after. But there was a really good story I read this year about a bucatini shortage in the US, which was a really fun read. So I'd recommend going away and reading about that. It's just somebody who noticed they couldn't find this pasta they liked called bucatini, which is like spaghetti with a hole in the middle. And they couldn't find it anywhere. And they went on this whole like investigation, and it's fantastic. I would recommend checking it out.
Oh,
I can link it.
Yeah, go ahead and link it in the chat for those.
Yeah. Okay. I'll put it in the chat. This, I think, is the story here. I quickly Googled it there. I remember reading it. Somebody posted it in like our work Slack or something.
There you go.
It's a great story.
Bucatini shortage investigation. I'm probably going to go down that rabbit hole for sure. All right, that'll do it for us on the Backliners this week. Hayzer, thanks so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you on. You weren't dangerous. What is this bit with you being brand unsafe? I haven't been watching the stream enough to understand it.
Well, people just think the things I say and the things I do on my stream make me unsuitable for brands to sponsor me, I think is the thing. But I do actually just turn down sponsorship offers.
But not
from VPN companies and from Raid Shadow Legends.
Yes.
You know.
As is customary, I suppose. But theoretically, if Manscaped were to come knocking, I mean, it sounds like
I don't know if I could say no.
Yeah, how could you? With the product as great as the Lawnmower 4.0. Am I right, BaRRa?
You're so right, dude.
Thank you.
You're so right.
Very nicely done. Thanks, everyone, for listening, as always, or watching. You can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that kind of stuff. You can also check out the whole Prediction Network. They've got a bunch of different shows covering a bunch of different esports, so you'll definitely be able to find something that you're interested in, so check all those out. And go check out Hayzer, twitch.tv/Hayzer. No underscores or anything, right?
Yep.
Nice and clean. Twitch.tv/Hayzer and twitch.tv/2Rs, 2Cs, 2Ds if you want to go watch BaRRaCCuDDa. That does take you there now. It doesn't, but I'm making that up.
It will.
It will. Yeah, don't worry about it. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll catch you next week here on the Backliners. BaRRa, say the thing.
Bye.
Okay, not your best effort.
What? It really wasn't. You made me laugh.
How?
Bro, you would say the thing.